So before we begin, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to a few key individuals and organizations who made this event possible today. So first, please join me in thanking Nancy Nelson, Deputy Provost for the School of Continuing Education, and the entire School of Continuing Education team, as well as our staff in the Small Business Development Corporation, Adina and Greg. Would you all please stand so that we can see the hard work you put into making this event possible? Thank you so much. We also wish to recognize the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership and its staff. Alex, Ruth, I know Ruth, you were here somewhere, so Ruth, if you raise your hand, thank you, Ruth, and Lily. Thank you all for the generous grant that has allowed us to bring this event to fruition. I just want to say one more side note that we recently partnered on a panel of young leaders on the front line defending democracy in Ukraine, Sudan, Zimbabwe, and Hong Kong. So Ruth, it's always a pleasure to work with the center. The Tommy Thompson Center was established to follow in the footsteps of Governor Tommy Thompson, who proudly worked with colleagues on both sides of the aisle to advance the public good. The center seeks to carry on Governor Thompson's legacy by informing and inspiring current and future public leaders, fostering leadership skills, promoting effective public leadership. They work to further these goals by offering public events, funding research and scholarships, honoring exemplary public leaders with a Distinguished Public Leadership Award, and conducting other activities like this one across the UW campuses. And they are all free to the public, so if you're interested, please review their website. Last, I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to the Babs Theater Group for their generous donation of this beautiful space tonight. Thank you so much. On behalf of the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, it is my pleasure to welcome you. Programming such as this is so vital to our mission of fostering community engagement and providing opportunities for growth and development. If you have the desire to elevate your job skills, train, or find a new career, I encourage you to consider UW-Milwaukee. We have many programs that are tailored to your professional needs. So thank you again for being here tonight. Next, I want to welcome Lafayette Crump, Milwaukee's Commissioner of City Development, whose leadership in economic opportunity, affordable housing, and community growth underscores Milwaukee's commitment to inclusivity and prosperity. He has a long bio of all the work that he's done to lift this community, so I'm going to stop there and just ask you to join me in welcoming Lafayette Crump.
I would know that woo anywhere. Thank you, Elmer. Good evening, everyone. It's fantastic to be here with you. I am regretting telling Vice Chancellor Vang to shorten my bio, though. Sometimes I like to hear it, sometimes I like to be gassed up, but it's a pleasure to be here with all of you this evening. As Vice Chancellor mentioned, I have the honor of serving as Milwaukee's Commissioner of City Development, and it's my honor as well to be here on behalf of Mayor Cavalier Johnson and the City of Milwaukee, welcoming you all here, as well as welcoming an incredible speaker who I had a chance to hear from a little bit earlier today, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him later. I want to thank as well UW-Milwaukee School of Continuing Education. Thank you to Gary Witt and Milwaukee Turners, and thank you as well to the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership and the Small Business Development Center for helping to make this event possible. And like the event that I mentioned that we had earlier today, this is truly an important one. This is special. I had a chance to watch the Barber of Little Rock recently, and it was so energizing to watch Arlo Washington's journey and to consider his impact on so many lives through economic empowerment. One of the ways he does this, of course, is through his work as leader of an impactful community development financial institution, or CDFI, and we are blessed here in Milwaukee to have a number of local CDFIs who are making a major impact on our community. Economic development throughout the entire city of Milwaukee is one of the pillars of Mayor Johnson's policy priorities, and we have the responsibility and privilege at the Department of City Development to lead that work. Yet we know it cannot happen without partners who are just as committed to this work as we are, which is why we're so fortunate to have organizations here like Legacy Redevelopment Corp., Northwest Side Community Development, WIBIC, the Hmong Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce, and others who are working with those who are looking to change their lives and by extension change the community. So let's take a look at a short video which spotlights the work done by these amazing partners. Thank you.
In Milwaukee, small businesses link community. They make community. They are the community.
A lot of the businesses that you will find in the Milwaukee area got their start from CDFIs.
Driving around the streets of Milwaukee and other communities, I can point this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Individuals that otherwise would not be able to get access to fair and responsible capital.
We finance, the only African-American owned gas station in the state of Wisconsin, the only African-American Culver's franchise in the state of Wisconsin. You just don't see minorities with those kinds of businesses in Milwaukee.
But they come to us with great hope and promise, and we try to find a way to get to yes. Community development financial institutions are mission lenders.
CDFI was created to really provide opportunities for those who would otherwise not, have the opportunity to see their dreams realized.
Imagine CDFIs don't exist, and you're looking to start a business. You can't go to the bank. Maybe you're denied by the bank. Where do you go? There's no place to go. We are that place to go.
I think of a lot of Black and brown owned businesses that come and they just start out, with an amazing idea or an amazing product or service and a wing and a prayer. And we really don't think about approaching a bank for capital. It can be a little bit intimidating.
Banks generally don't lend to that working capital, inventory. Banks generally cringe at that, and that's where small business lenders and CDFIs like WIBIC, really lend to that needed piece of that startup capital that business owners need.
Primarily, CDFIs will refer clients to us that they feel are good candidates to receive capital from CDFIs, but they still need some assistance.
And our goal is not only to finance the businesses, but is to prepare them to ultimately go to the bank. We want them to graduate. I don't want clients to be with us for 10 years after we've originated their loan. Oftentimes they're with us because they couldn't go to the bank. So if we're doing our job properly, we're preparing them to go to the bank at some point so that they don't need us anymore.
These communities matter. And so whether or not there's investment here, there are people here that love their community and that are committed to it. And so we leverage our resources as a nonprofit, as a certified community development institution to bring resources and tools that our businesses and our neighbors and everyone could potentially leverage to, bring a better tomorrow.
The people that come to us a lot of times have had difficulties getting started, whether they've been told no by traditional banks, haven't had other opportunities to grow their ideas. So when they come to us, they're ready.
At Birdsongs, we're known for being the oil people. We have over 800 different fragrances. We also have clothing, shea butter, incense, but we're really known for our oils. You can come here, make your own custom scent, call it whatever you want to call it, and we've been here for 20 years. I went from 900 square feet to 3,600 square feet. I had it all packed in a small space. Now I was able to really show my space.
The work that is done in this area is so vital to what happens for people, for small businesses, the folks that get overlooked.
The majority of the clients that they serve are not traditional banking clients. So without CDFIs, a lot of the businesses that they own and are developing will not take place, will not open, will never be. And as a result, those opportunities are gone and those jobs that they create are gone and the inspiration that they provide to the community is gone. So CDFI is truly a lifeline of economic development in our community.
People are drawn to Milwaukee. There are different types of opportunities here, and so it draws people. It goes back, it's part of the ecosystem, right? The people come, restaurants or different types of businesses open and serve these individuals, and then they stay.
I initially met Therese Cairo through the Brew City Match, and she introduced me to her program, Legacy Redevelopment Corp. She said, put together a wish list and let me know what that is, and we'll do what we do on our end. And the rest was history.
When you first come to us, you do your application, your personal financial statement, making sure that they have them first and that they make sense. They know what they mean and we know what they mean. We have to see that they have some thought in mind on what happens after this in the next 3 years. So we look at projections. We prepare them for all things.
I would say we see approximately 2,000 or so clients every single year in Greater Milwaukee training. Again, how to start that business, how to grow that business, accelerations, marketing on a shoestring, looking at things that aren't sexy but that are real important, cash flow and money management and all of that. We do that on ground, so actually evenings and weekends in our offices and throughout the community. We do it online, and we also do it on demand, so making it as accessible as possible. And that's really sort of the feel for WIBIC and has been since day one.
Without WIBIC, we wouldn't exist today. They were a pivotal part in our whole process of buying the business.
There's no doubt that we are more willing to take certain risks that traditional banks just can't. And as long as they show us that they're prepared and that it's certainly worth our risk to work with them, then we give them that opportunity and they get a business loan from us. What's very important to us is to let the individuals that we work with know that these relationships are important to us, and if anything comes up in their business, that they can trust us, they can come to us, we can work through that.
Once you become a loan client, the TA, the technical assistance, comes in on the back end as well. And the biggest component of our technical assistance is the business and the financial acumen. We also have people think about succession planning. What does it look like for you after this? You're going to close your doors? Do you want to leave this to your children, somebody in your family? I think as small businesses, sometimes we don't think about those things, so we try to plant those seeds.
We try to be that network to support them to understand the things that they don't. Ignorance is the biggest issue that prevents folks from moving beyond their circumstances.
We are grateful for the presence of CDFIs in the city of Milwaukee. Without them, the deals that we get done are a lot harder. Without them, there are a lot of businesses that never would have opened and never would have contributed to the success and growth of Milwaukee.
Without small businesses, the heartbeat is slow. It doesn't pump the same.
Small businesses are vital. 85% of all the businesses in the state of Wisconsin are micro or small businesses, employing handfuls of individuals, maybe self-employed, and they make up that fabric, that unique fabric in urban centers and rural communities.
They're worth investing in. Let's make sure everybody gets $1.
These business owners, as they grow, they begin to invest in other areas. They begin to do other things within the community. And that ultimately just kind of helps the entire ecosystem, more the workforce side of it improves, and more individuals are able to see the success of this business, and hopefully they're inspired to do something, or at least it brings hope.
To thank Legacy Redevelopment Corp, I might get a little teary-eyed. I am eternally grateful for her and her team. Had we gone into it without the proper funding and the support from Legacy Redevelopment Corp, I don't know that we would have made it. I'm eternally grateful. Yeah.
What a great video. I had a chance to see that earlier today. I want to thank the organizations that are highlighted, some of whom should be in the room with us here tonight. How about a hand for those organizations? And now let's talk about our main event, Mr. Arlo Washington. a man who has made significant contributions fighting for economic justice while inspiring countless individuals along the way. Mr. Johnson, who is also the founder and CEO of Washington Barber College, founded People Trust, Community Federal Credit Union, as well as the CDFI, one of 1,500 CDFIs created to address racial and historic inequities in banking, and the only Black-owned CDFI in the state of Arkansas. You know, People Trust exists to help those who might struggle to get loans from traditional banks to succeed. Its story and Arlo's are chronicled, of course, in the Oscar-nominated documentary, The Barber of Little Rock, which I think we'll see some snippets of this evening. We'll get those snippets, but I would encourage everyone to watch the full video, which is available on YouTube, I think at NewYorker.com as well. I promise you, it's the best 35 minutes you will spend in a long time. There are many gems that Arlo drops in the movie. Among them, in order to develop a community, you must develop its people. And the one that, and that he mentions as well, and this is one that really, I really love the way he said it, that we all have to work together to help people get their money right. I love it because it's so basic, but it is so true. And the difference between getting your money right and falling over an economic cliff, it can be so small that it's depressing to think about sometimes. And it's depressing to think about how many people miss opportunities because of that very small difference. You know, the average loan size for People Trust clients is about $1,000 for individuals and $5,000 for businesses. And 95% of their clients repay their loans on time. And that isn't significantly different than the average for all bank loans nationwide. So I guess opening up opportunity to a broader group of people isn't as risky as some would have you believe. And do you know how you get a hold of Arlo? Do you know how you reach him? And this is real. You just email him at arlo@providingequalopportunities.org. And I think that says it all. So without further ado, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce a true economic warrior, Mr. Arlo Washington.
When you can't buy food, you can't pay your light bill, or you can't pay your rent. Life is going on, life is happening, you know, and trying to put a Band-Aid and stop the bleeding on the effects of generational poverty. Investments and resources that are meant to get to these communities haven't gotten to them. There has to be economic warriors in the community to create economic justice.
Hey, what's going on, man? Everybody good?
My name is Arlo Washington, and my purpose in life is to advance equity, create opportunities, and build the community.
Tell me what it is that you want to do. Do you have any operating capital right now?
I hear it so much. If you could just give me a chance, just give me a chance to prove that I'm trustworthy, that I'm creditworthy, that I can run this business successfully.
I'm good. How are you? I have an 8-month-old. Like, you can't be without no lights.
I think the first thing is to get you off the streets.
We're gonna do your emergency grant. Let's do a $1,500 grant. This is a new beginning. You know what I'm saying?
My mother provided such a great example of humanity and having compassion and understanding that life circumstances happen. And when they happen, that people need compassion, people need restoration, people need rehabilitation, people need love.
When you look in those eyes, think about your kids. Think about your loved ones. Think about the setbacks and the wins, all the hard lessons, and just see all the hurt, see all the pain. Be with him right now.
Time. It's all right, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
I seen my big brother, man. I ain't seen him since I was 12 years old.
I say a lot. Tell a whole story. You know, and that was uncomfortable for them. I know it was, because I've done it before. But that's an exercise that will help you if you're somebody that's introverted and you're somebody that's kind of in a shell, and help you be more assertive and help you to be more, you know, and understanding to what other people are going through.
Thank you so much. I just want to give it's an honor to be here in Turner Hall. Thank you to the University of Milwaukee Continuing Education. Thank you to Mr. Gary Witt for making this possible. I was just reading a little bit of the history about Turner Hall, and it's full circle to our story at People Trust. And what happens in Little Rock happens all over the world. In every state, in every city, in every community, there's economic disparity. You have the have and you have the have-nots. Again, my name is Arlo Washington. I'm the founder and president of People Trust Community Loan Fund. And also, I am the founder and CEO of People Trust Community Federal Credit Union. And I'm also the director of Washington Barber College as well. And, I am not your traditional banker. I am a community development financial institution. I'm like the special forces. If you think about FEMA, anytime there's a disaster, and FEMA comes through and they provide critical resources to community members that suffer from disasters. You think about the pandemic, whenever we had, businesses doors were about to close, and CDFIs were financial frontline first responders to those community members that were in need and in crisis. We are the special forces for financial services. CDFIs are the financial institutions that can be nimble, can be innovative and creative to be able to provide access to financial resources, tools, products, and services that traditional banks simply just have a hard time providing. We are the mechanisms that make it happen, the quarterbacks, so to speak. How many football players do we have, football lovers do we have in here? We are the quarterbacks. Without the CDFIs, a lot of financial transactions don't happen for those that are credit invisible. You think about those, credit is an asset, and you have to take credit to get credit, but a lot of times, credit outlets are not available. Credit outlets are not available to community members that don't have a credit score. If you don't have a credit score, then you can't access a loan from a bank. So CDFIs provide that onboarding ramp to low-income, underserved communities that need access to the financial system. It's a hand up, not a handout. People Trust emerged out of an unmet credit need in our community. In 2009, Arkansas became a credit desert. You think about a credit desert, where no water is, a desert is a dry place. In Arkansas, in 2009, there were 200,000 Arkansans utilizing predatory payday loans. There was about 134 brick and mortar payday lenders operating in the state because there was no access for those that couldn't access capital at a traditional financial institution. And so by the end of 2009, there were 0 payday lenders in the state. Well, this left and created more economic disparity in our community. I'm a barber by trade. I've been a barber in the community for 22 years. And we've trained and we've placed barbers throughout the community in efforts to create jobs, to create opportunity. During that time, we were offering federal student aid to low-income students. These students, we noticed that they have to have entrance counseling and exit counseling. And during that, we noticed that they didn't know the difference between a grant and a loan. And so we didn't want to be part of the solution. We part of the problem, we want to be part of the solution. And in order to do that, we had to provide financial literacy. And a lot of the students, we noticed that there was a huge need that they weren't the only ones suffering with a lack of financial education. Their parents, their grandparents, generational poverty. We don't talk about that subject enough. In the film, we talk about generational poverty, that conversation being swept under the rug and overlooked. But generational poverty is the fallout of the racial wealth gap in America. And when we talk about the racial wealth gap, we don't talk about it enough. You know, we feel and we see prosperity, we see things happening for certain communities, but then you have those low-income communities, those geographical locations that have been redlined that still are having a hard time pulling themselves up. That's why CDFIs are so important. But CDFIs don't get enough support. The program is grossly underfunded. We have 1,500 CDFIs nationwide that compete for funding. And that makes it hard. It's already a heavy lift to serve an underserved population of people that don't have access and haven't had access to credit and capital. No small businesses are able to scale their businesses, grow and expand. They're not able to create the jobs because they have tight budgets. And capital is the lifeblood of the community. We call CDFIs the capillaries that help pump the blood through the community, that help circulate those resources that help communities thrive. People trust, again, we emerged out of an unmet credit need. I had people coming and asking to borrow money whenever they couldn't go to the payday lenders. They were still driving to border states to get loans and still getting themselves inside of a debt trap. So we wanted to provide a solution, so we started providing small dollar loans, installment loans, to be able to build credit for those in our community so that they would be able to access more mainstream finance. We did a study with TransUnion, and credit scores rose by 62% in the state of Arkansas. So credit is an asset. We have partnered with collaboration. It takes collaboration, not competition, to solve common problems. And so we've worked with other CDFIs, banks, foundations to advance equity in our communities. People Trust started out as a community development financial institution loan fund. But then we during the pandemic, we noticed that a lot of business owners were not using the bank. They were using alternative forms of financial services like your cash apps. They were running their business. I met a business owner running his business for more than 10 years on Cash App. He couldn't access a loan at a bank because the Cash App bank statement was not acceptable at a traditional bank. So he couldn't show and prove his income. He couldn't show his capacity and his ability to borrow. So that's why CDFIs are important, because we could take and provide the technical assistance to those small business owners to help them to be able to aggregate all of their income to be able to tell what they're able to access in terms of a loan amount. And so it's critical that CDFIs get the support from the foundations, from the banks. But then you think about in places like Arkansas where there are CDFIs, but then these CDFIs have been around for a long time. You know, you don't know what you don't know that you don't know that you don't know. And the community members that need to know didn't know. You know, they always say that in the black community that we always a day late and a dollar short. And that is the situation in where we are right now. You know, CDFIs are a new thing to a lot of black communities, a lot of communities of color and communities that are underserved. You know, we talk about race a lot of times, but it's not just, you know, the color of, it's not just the race thing, because there's a customer that came into the barbershop and he works at a traditional bank. And one of the things that he was sharing his story when he saw the film, and he was talking about how, you know, if you're white, they get loans, you know, they don't have to have a relationship. If you're Asian, if you're, you know, Hispanic, you know, other races are getting loans at this bank, you know, without having a relationship with the bank. They get a phone call and they get a call from corporate and they say, give them a loan for $20,000, $30,000. But then if you're black, there are no loans offered. And you have to check every box. The problem with this institution is that there was only one white employee. Everybody there was black. So there are so many things that we have to tackle when it comes down to access to capital. It's black on black crime in financial services. That has to be addressed as well. So when we think about the challenges that low and moderate income communities face, which are predominantly black communities, we have to take a holistic approach. We have to think outside the box. We have to be intentional about the products that we offer. Installment loans are important. We talk about in the film, you can't develop a community if you don't develop the people in the community. The people in the community matter. If you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. And if we relate that to populations, income levels, then we got to rake it in and we have to rack it all up. It all adds up. And for too long, financial institutions have only been concerned about the big deals, the dollars, but left out a lot of the pennies, the quarters, the nickels, and the dimes. If we want stronger local economies, then we have to be inclusive. We have to include everybody. We have to include all income levels, all geographical locations, all races, all people. And if we keep that in mind, then advancing equity won't be such a heavy lift. We have to work in tandem together. We have to work together. It takes collaboration to solve common problems. We have to, your strength is my weakness is your strength. CDFIs are critical partners in advancing equity in our communities. But then, how do we use the program? Who knows about CDFIs? What does the acronym mean? I see so many times, what is a CDFI? Well, I'm here to explain that to you tonight. That's why I have this outfit on, because I'm an economic warrior and for my community. And without me, my community won't have access to capital, won't have access to the financial system. It's important for us to understand that this program has to have government support. During the last couple administrations, I'm gonna say the administration before this last administration, and I know they say stay away from politics and religion and money and religion and all of that, but there is an understanding that CDFIs are a mature group and that they have enough funding and we don't need the program. But that's not true, because the wealth gap still exists. Economic disparity is still prevalent in our nation. We still have underserved, underrepresented, under-credit invisible populations that need access to capital. They can't pay their rent. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They are surviving and not thriving. We want people to thrive. We want small business. We want job creations. We want economic opportunity. But someone has to be there to extend a hand up. We talk about businesses that we hear about. And I just heard that, there's Tesla was not profitable immediately. But there was a financial institution that kept funding Tesla, kept giving Tesla money when they were not meeting their financial goals. But does that happen in the black community? Does that happen in communities that are underserved? Does that happen in low and moderate income communities? That don't happen. That's why it's important that we continue to support community development financial institutions. We need Congress to run it up to $1 billion annually. $1 billion annually. We funding wars, we should be able to feed the poor. We should be able to provide access to capital for underserved communities. That is why you have to have economic warriors, a voice for those that don't have a voice. A lot of people wasn't invited to be in this room. That's why those of us that are here, we have a charge to make sure that we provide the information, that we provide access, that we use the tools in the toolbox in our communities, in our local economies if we want to advance equity. those foundations, those banks, everybody plays a role. But even the teller plays a role. But we have to look at things through a lens of equity, through a lens of empathy, so that we're able to be inclusive. It takes inclusion, not exclusion. Again, if you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. People Trust now has a federal credit union. We now have a depository. We now have over 1,000 members. We now have another challenge. Again, the work don't stop. We off work, but we may be off work, but we always on duty. There's calls all the time, about, I tell a story about, there's a young lady, she came into the branch and she was unbanked, mom unbanked. You think about generational poverty being a mentality. My mama kept her money under the mattress for a lot of my life. And for a long time, that's where I thought the safest place was, to keep my money under the mattress. My birth certificate, my social security card, everything goes under the mattress. And until I learned better, if you know better, you can do better. So I say what you don't know that you don't know that you don't know can affect you. And so it's important that, when I learned better, you have to put your money in the bank. Those that are unbanked, we have so many people that can't read a bank statement, that they need that extra time. But I understand that traditional financial institutions just don't have the time to be able to do that. So they got to call in special forces like CDFIs. That's why we're here, to be able to be that bridge over troubled water, to be able to be the resource when there is no resources, to provide hope in communities where hope is gone. People Trust is one of 1,500 financial institutions nationwide. There are different types of CDFIs. People Trust is a revolving loan fund, because our community lacked access to installment loans. And installment loans is what builds a credit score, allows community members that can't get a mortgage loan, can't get a business loan, can't get, any type of access. That installment loan is so critical. That's why we need CDFIs across the country, to at least have a financial product in your portfolio that caters to consumers. Consumers, the people support the businesses, the people buy the cars, the people buy the homes. It's the people that we have to support and that we have to undergird to make sure that they have what they need and nobody's hurting. And so I'm happy to be here tonight. People Trust also is now, we just launched a debit card program. So now we're able to provide, and shout out to Visa, we were able to provide a debit card to our members so that they're able to make their financial transactions. We got to take baby steps, and we have to understand the wealth gap. The gap is so wide, we cannot ignore it. We cannot overlook it. We can't say, oh, it's something that we talk about, but that's over with. No, the wealth gap still exists. And we know that the work that we do, the labor is not in vain, because we maybe can never eradicate poverty, but we can minimize it. We can reduce it. We can help those that are experiencing generational poverty to have an opportunity at creating generational wealth. Generational wealth. If I'm experiencing generational wealth, if you're somebody here, we talk about, if you have generational wealth and you can't create impact, what's the point? Generational wealth and generational poverty are two different worlds. My experience with money and your experience with money are different. My credit needs, your credit needs are different. And we have to understand, as financial service providers, financial products, financial institutions have to understand that there are special needs. We think about small businesses. And small businesses have to be in compliance with ADA regulations. You think about the American Disabilities Act. They have to be in compliance. The doors of these businesses have to have wheelchair accessibility. I was going to a restaurant this morning and I saw a sign in front of the building that said, if you need access and you're in a wheelchair, then get the host, contact the host. So I said, wow, this is a real thing, that if I'm handicapped, they have to open a door or provide a way for me to access their facility. Well, the doors to the financial system are out of compliance. And they've been out of compliance for far too long. There are, because of the generational wealth gap, because of generational poverty, we have created, the fallout of that is what do you call economic disabled people. They're economically disabled. They're in a wheelchair with their money. They're in a wheelchair with their understanding of money. And they need access. We have to get the youth connected. We have so many disconnected youth that are not a part of the financial system. We have so many of our elderly population. We had somebody open up a checking account for the first time and they're 60 years old. Can we just forget about the people? Can we disregard them? Can we underestimate? Can we underserve? Doesn't everybody deserve a fair chance at the American dream? Doesn't everybody deserve a fair chance at creating opportunity for themselves and their families? Don't they deserve an opportunity to create generational wealth? That's why I'm so honored to be here tonight, because I wanted to use this platform to talk about the generational wealth gap, the racial wealth gap in America, and talk about generational poverty, and talk about how important it is for us to not forget it, for us to understand. And those of us that don't, I was talking to somebody that was generational wealth just like a couple days ago, and I mentioned the term unbanked. I said, I've never heard that term. You see, my experience, if I'm generational poverty, and your experience, if you're generational wealth, are two different experiences. We have to understand, we have to know that everybody matters. It all adds up. We have a huge debt in America. I think about, I don't know, $34 trillion. That's because that we don't have an inclusive economy. My dad, he used to keep a jar on the side of his bed. I had two great parents. They were never married. I grew up a single-parent home, but two good parents. They're both deceased today. But he kept a jar on the side of his bed that he put his change in. And I just saw that. I see all this change that he put all his change inside of this jar. And I used to look at that. I say, man. And whenever he needed more money or he ran low, he could go to his jar, but he'd been taking care of the pennies. He'd been taking care of the pennies. And now that jar is just about full. We are not taking care of the pennies. We are not being inclusive. We are not being intentional in America. We have to embrace the tools in the toolbox. We got to use what we have. I didn't have a whole lot of money when I started People Trust Community Loan Fund, but I saw the need, and I was compelled to help my community because being a business owner in the community, and the community has been supporting my business for all these years. They've been coming and they've been sharing their resources and patronizing the business. They've been supporting the business. Now it's time for the business to support the community. We had to be able to say, you know what? We have people that are losing jobs. We had single mothers sleeping in their cars with their kids. We have all these things. CDFIs, we now have, it's now tentacles. We've now became a part of Shelter Plus program through HUD, and we offer now permanent and temporary supportive housing for those that are economically disabled. And we're able to reach our most vulnerable population through that service. the first question that we ask is, do you have a checking account? And most of them say they don't have a checking account. They're disconnected. You see the role of socially and culturally conscious financial institutions? We have to understand. And if we don't have the capacity as traditional financial institutions, then we have to lean on our CDFIs. And CDFIs, I know they've been around 1994, even before that. But CDFIs today show up for your community. Show up for the community. You're not a bank. You're a community development financial institution. Don't try to be the bank. Don't set strict criteria and rules that block access to capital, that block access to credit for those that don't have access. We have to understand that special needs require specialized financial institutions. Today, I'm advancing equity in a different way. We still have the barber school. We still produce barbers. We still train and place barbers throughout the community. We still create jobs. But now there's a higher calling. You know, we now have grown from those $250 loans to now a $15 million portfolio. During the pandemic, we were able to provide $52 million in PPP loans to small businesses that otherwise wouldn't have had access to the program. We had a tornado to hit our community March 3rd of 2023. And it destroyed, flattened everything. It was like the things you see on TV. And the first thing we did, we launched $1 million fund. That's the first thing we did. We launched $1 million fund to be able to show the community that they were not alone. We were able to immediately offer emergency grants and loans to small businesses and to households that were impacted by the disaster. That's the flexibility. That's the innovation that CDFIs are able to bring. We can create products. We can create services that cater to the community credit needs, where traditional banks are restricted through regulations. They're restricted to check every box. So I'm honored, again, to be here at Turner Hall to share with you all my story about People Trust, how we emerged, and where we are today, and fighting the war against poverty. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I believe that there's an opportunity for questions. If you have questions, please share.
Don't be shy. Who has a question?
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
This is a difficult question, but what gave you the audacity to try to do this? So, I broke it. I've seen the film, and I understand the inspiration. And listening to you, we're all inspired. But after the inspiration, you have to have a level of gumption, audacity, chutzpah, balls, whatever you want to call it, to actually try to do something that is extraordinarily hard. So I would love to hear
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that question. What gave me the audacity to create a financial institution? I don't have a master's in finance, so I didn't go to university, and I don't have a financial background. My dad told me a story, and I was getting ready to move to New York, and I told the story earlier, but he said one thing to me about my endeavor, and that was, son, don't nothing beat a failure but a try. And that resonated with me, and that stuck with me, throughout my life. And, being black in America, being a black male in America, being, growing up experiencing generational poverty, and also understanding, the challenges when you're wanting to start a business or you're wanting to be able to create opportunity for yourself and your family. I've had to overcome a lot of obstacles in my life. The film made it look easy, but it's very complex work. It's not easy. And I would say that starting Washington Barber College was a pivotal moment in my life. And when we became nationally accredited through the Council on Occupational Education, and then we became certified by the Department of Education, and we were able to participate with the federal student aid program, then I felt like that gave me the confidence to be able to understand the compliance. I tell them I said, compliance is my middle name. And so I felt like that if we could do this, then we could do that. It just takes time. It takes understanding what the rules and regulations are, and then navigating and being patient. And we waited, and we worked, and we went through a lot to be able to, September 14, 2022, charter People Trust Community Federal Credit Union. Thank you.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
So, you're a barber. I watched your documentary on YouTube. Very inspiring.
Oh, thank you so much.
I am also a hairstylist and in the industry. Been in the industry for over 31 years.
Amazing.
And we kind of have some similarities with teaching and trying to help the community.
Yes.
And I want to know, how did you navigate from being a barber to a school and then to a lending?
Thank you. Of course, being a barber, of course, historically, barbers have been an all-cash business. It's hand-to-hand combat in the community when it comes down to barbers and their customers and providing the service and all cash. And, that experience of being a barber, I did not have the financial education early on when I became a barber. So as soon as I make some money at the barber shop, I immediately go and I use it, right? Because I'm gonna make it back tomorrow. And that, when I wanted to go and I wanted to buy a home or I wanted to go and finance a vehicle, I ran into challenges because I couldn't show what my income was because I was keeping it under the mattress. It was in my pocket. It was in a shoebox. All these different places. I was unbanked. Okay, so that experience. But then, again, you get married. You want to build your life, and then you understand that this thing called a FICO score is a challenge, and the bank. The amount of money you need, the bank wants to know how much income you have, but then you can't maybe show a bank statement that shows all your income. So navigating all that and going through all that and those challenges and those hardships, those hard knocks, those hard lessons, they say experience is the best teacher. And the thing is, that experience learned me, it taught me a lot. I had a lot of hard lessons. And so when I learned better and I went through the financial literacy program and gained financial education, then I began to do better. And at that point, I was thinking about other young barbers that were coming up under me, and I said, you know what? If I can share with them something to make their journey a lot easier than mine, then that would help the barbers in my barbershop. That would help the barbers in the community. And so I began at that point to be able to really be an example for my community, for the barbers that were in my community, and those that especially worked in my barbershop. Those barbers, but then, we teaching, when you're unpacking a lot of stories, you're unpacking a whole lot of things, you have to unpack a lot of stories to be able to make deposits and to be able to teach somebody. So I said, well, you know what, I'm teaching them how to dress, I'm teaching them how to talk, I'm teaching them how to do their money so that they have enough money to be able to pay their bills and buy a car and maybe even one day get a home. We should do a barber school, because if we can teach them at the barber school, then before they hit the workforce, they're able to now be able to be sustainable. Well, when they got to barber school, then we started offering federal student aid, and we noticed, because you have to provide financial literacy before they access student loans. And a lot of times, if anybody ever been to college, I'm sure you know, a lot of times people check the box, sign, give me the loan. And that was happening. And there was a thing called a default rate. And post-secondary institutions can't go over 30%. So I started really paying attention to the default rates. I said, wow, if we get 30% in consecutive 3 years, you lose your Title IV funding, you're not able to provide this resource no more to low-income students. So we started paying attention to that. And we said, well, the only way we can fix that, we got to provide education. So we're going to really spend time on making sure that they understand what a loan is and what a grant is, that these loans have to be paid back. These grants don't have to be paid back. But we made sure. And so in doing that, we noticed that they had wraparound services that they needed. If they were a single mom, they needed childcare. If they were out-of-town student, they needed shelter. If they were someone that didn't have transportation, they needed transportation. They needed food. All these things. And so, me being the community advocate that I am and providing solutions to the problems, I'm doing this. But that's not sustainable. That won't work. We need a fund. We need something, a mechanism in place to be able to send the community members to, so that they're able to access what they need. I don't want everybody mad at me as a business owner and I'm successful in the community. I want to be able to provide a solution, so we created the fund. And when we created the fund, I funded the fund with $1,000 a month from my paycheck. I would put $250, I would make 4 loans every month at $250 a piece. And then when we get to, by this time, the demand began to grow. People calling us, say, hey, we hit our ceiling, we'll pick it back up next month. And we did that over and over and over and over and over again. And in 2016, we were able to become, we had enough data to become a community development financial institution. And from that, 2018, Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, our initiatives aligned. They were advancing equity, we were advancing equity. And they supported us with a grant to be able to get online loan management system so that we would be able to reach our target market. We serve 12 cities, 45 census tracts, and 2 counties. But how does a small CDFI do that? We were able to do that because we had this grant and we had access. They were able to go online and able to access it with ease. We took away a lot of the psychological trauma that a lot of community members go through when applying for a loan. And that's how we transitioned from Barber to CDFI to federally insured depository institution. We're now a minority depository institution, and we have a low-income designation. So we can take membership from anywhere in the country. And minority depository institutions are so important. I just became a board member for the Opportunity Finance Network. And that is a great organization that provides resources to CDFIs, provides support and capital to CDFIs to be able to advance their missions. And I'm also a member of the African American Alliance for CDFI CEOs. So we have a focus on providing access to capital for African American communities. But again, I used to be black before I turned green. So, now we're talking about, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund and how we can make sure that gas emissions are reduced in low-income communities, that homeowners in these communities that haven't been able to get home equity lines of credit to update their homes will have access to this program so that they can get new roofs, they can get, solar panels, they can get new appliances, they can be a part of the move. They're not a day late and a dollar short anymore. I know that was a lot. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Arlo, we have a question from a virtual participant, so it's
Awesome.
a two-part.
Awesome.
First up is, where do CDFIs get their funding? And then the second is, if you've heard of C-Note, which the participant is saying is a funding source for CDFIs.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's a great question. Thank you. Shout out to all the people that's virtual, that's watching. So banks and foundations, banks and foundations, banks and foundations. CDFIs access capital from banks and foundations. That's why banks are so critical and foundations are so critical to the work, because again, the CDFI fund program is grossly underfunded. With 1,500 CDFIs and the demand of the wealth gap in America, we need more funding. But of course, that funding has to be allocated through the federal government. So I hope in all of the agencies that they're getting rid of, they don't get rid of the CDFI fund. And we need $1 billion annually. C-Note is a great organization. We are actually partners with C-Note. And C-Note provides access to credit unions that are, needing low-cost deposits. They provide capital to credit unions that need access to capital as well. And they have been very instrumental and very helpful to our organization. So banks, foundations, you got to create those relationships. So we need every bank in the country to understand that CDFIs are not your enemy. They're not your competitor. They are your partner when it comes down to advancing equity. Foundations, if you want to do program-related investments, CDFIs are the partners that you can have to help advance your mission and your initiatives and get those tangible outcomes that you're looking for.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have one question for you. I'm curious if all the areas that you lend to, and I'm also curious if you get involved in housing for home ownership and your thoughts on that space.
Oh, that's a good question. So when you say areas that we lend to, we have the capacity to go across the country. We did 2,600 small business loans nationwide to businesses in New York, businesses in DC, businesses in LA, all over the place we made loans. Now, in the housing space, we fund contractors. So we have minority developers, contractors that build affordable housing that we fund. We provide them with loans and to fund the property, and then we turn around and provide the homeowner with a loan to be able to buy the home from the contractor that turns around and pays the loan back, and then we make another loan, and then that's the way we do that. And also, we also are a HUD, we're partners with HUD, and we offer permanent and temporary supportive housing to folks with disabilities. Through that program, they have a program where we provide developmental services to that population on a monthly basis, right? They're able to get financial literacy, create a budget. They get a checking account. Now we're able to allow them to be able to get all of those, aggregate their money, see what they got coming in, what they got going out, and then we can build them a small home, an affordable home. We have partnered with organizations like Providence Park that's doing 200 acres of tiny homes that are going to be energy efficient. That I saw a solar energy efficient home. The energy, their light bill was $230 annually. That's something you think about utility costs and how utility costs. But we fund minority developers. We fund folks that participate in building affordable housing. We do all types of loans. We have tentacles. Our CDFI has tentacles. We're not restricted to just one
product and service. We just did a mortgage loan. We have a couple mortgages in our portfolio that we've done. We need to become a part of the Federal Home Loan Bank, though, and we got to get 15% of our portfolio in home mortgages in order to be able to do that. So we're on a track.
Any other questions? One last question.
Hello. Were you ever told that no, you can't do this, or that you were crazy for lending money that banks said no to communities? And if so, how did you deal with all that negativity coming your way?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Wow. Man, I got stories to tell. I don't know if I got enough time to tell you. Remember, we're grassroots. You know, I didn't have, a lot of, funders in Arkansas that even knew what the acronym CDFI was. So, but I read the federal registrar and legislation that said that my role was to rectify economic disparity in my target market. And we didn't just want to carry the acronym and, we wanted to be a good CDFI and really fulfill the mission. So first thing I did when I saw that, we had to have, that banks and foundations, and I also saw, well, how does a bank fund a CDFI? How does a foundation fund a CDFI? Well, the bank funds through equity equivalent investments, or what they call EQ2s. So how do we get these EQ2s? I need to go to this bank, I need to knock on the door, I need to walk in the bank and talk to the compliance officer of the bank and say, hey, Mr. Bank, you're out of compliance. What? Out of compliance? Get out of here. No. It's better to get bees with honey than it is with mustard. So I said, well, maybe if I go in and I talk about it, so okay, well, how does this thing work? How does the CDFIs get money? How do they get funding from the bank? How do you engage banks that haven't had somebody that looks like me walk in talking about an EQ2 and a CDFI and all these different things? It's a heavy lift. It was a heavy lift. I've walked into banks, I've had compliance officers to, even just to have a conversation, to call security and walk me out the bank. And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to help you serve your folks that are making deposits in your assessment area, help you do what you're supposed to do. Everybody, but I mean, so, one of the things we had to do was research, okay, well, how do we help a bank? There's performance evaluations that we research, and we say, okay, well, we look at the federal primary regulators. You say, Federal Reserve, FDIC, OCC, and we say, well, who's got a bank exam coming up in our neighborhood? So say, oh, well, this bank has, 3 banks. Okay, pull up the performance evaluation. Look at the performance evaluation. We see that they may be adequate, but that's not good. So we got to go and see how we can assist. And then we say, bank, we have an opportunity to help you to be able to improve your performance. And the bank says, well, how are you going to do that? Well, we're going to provide loans to low and moderate income communities because we see that there's a not satisfactory in that area in your performance evaluation. And they say, well, how are you going to do that? Well, we need a loan. If you can't loan to them, you can lend to us, and we're a community development financial institution. And then so here's a story what happened one time. Ran into this bank, went to this bank, talked to the compliance officer, tried to get meetings, tried to get on a call, avoid me, look out the door, it's me, nah, I don't talk to him right now. So I couldn't get in to talk to him. So there was obvious that there was no activity. I've tried everything. I'm the type of person where if you call and they don't show, and if you call and they don't answer, show up at the door. So I showed up at the door. When I showed up at the door, then and I was met, and say, well, he's busy right now. And I saw him look out of the room and look at me and say, no, I don't want to talk to him. So I said, well, okay, well, how we do this? So I said, what I did, I said, well, okay, I have no choice but to put in a complaint, file a complaint. So I go and say, hey, where's the public file? The public file? Do you want the public file? I need the public file. I got a comment. So I put in the public file a comment, discrimination on the population of low income. And I walk away. Next thing I do, I get a call from the primary regulator that says, I got your call with this guy with the bank and they want to talk. Well, this is what happened. 2 banks were about to merge. And they were 2 large banks. And I had filed a complaint because I couldn't get any activity and couldn't get anywhere. And the president of the bank called and said, hey, you know, what do you want in order for us to be, because we need to resolve this. I said, well, he said, how much do you think you need to be able to, for this to, you to be able to, you know, we got this worked out, we partnered or whatever. I said, $10 million. He said, $10 million? What do you want $10 million? I said, yeah, because when I looked at your performance evaluations for the last 10 years, you know, it's been inadequate and it's been, you know, so I think that if we could take care of all those years and then the years that may come, it won't happen again. So it's like, well, you have never had $10 million in you send me your financial statement. There's no $10 million in the financial statement. So they said, well, okay, well, we think $100 will suffice. I said, okay, that'll work. So we took the $100,000. They were able to do the merger. The bank is there now. We now have still an existing relationship. After 5 years, we took the $100,000 and we turned that into $600,000. And the bank just extended our EQ2 today. And that's the power of the CDFI. That's why that program is so important. So if we got anybody in Congress, anybody out there that has anything to say about it, do not get rid of the CDFI fund program. It's so important to low-income communities, and it helps us in an area where we need it the most. It helps those that are in communities that need it the most. It helps those community members that can't access credit or capital anywhere. It helps everybody be connected to the financial institution. If we want stronger economies, we got to take care of the pennies. Thank you.
Arlo, I want to thank you for your insightful words. It was awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'd also like to thank you all for coming, and a special thank you to the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership for sponsoring this event. I would also like to thank Wendy Norum, our Assistant Marketing Director, for all the time she put into planning this event. Thank you, Wendy. And also, please watch for our upcoming programming in February for Black History Month. That will also be sponsored by the Tommy G. Thompson Center. Thank you.